You're afraid now. You're afraid. Okay.
Participation instructions. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually or telephonically via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. Business Administrator Board Secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order their hand was raised. Do the roll call.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Grabstein.
Mr. Fernandez,
Here.
Mr. Phytros, Mr. Gomes,
Here.
Dr. Martinez,
Here.
Mrs. O'Neill. Here. Mrs. Rodriguez, Mr. Thiemann,
Here.
Mr. Verselli,
Here.
Mr. Cathcart,
Here.
and President Gibbons.
Here.
Also present are Dr. Barry Haines, Acting Superintendent, Mrs. Carrie Grapstein, School Business Administrator, Mr. Wayne Demikoff, New Jersey State Monitor, and Ms. Carrie Wright, Board Attorney.
Thank you, Mrs. Grabstein.
You're welcome.
Board minutes, I believe.
Yes, we do have minutes to approve, September 15th, October 4th, and October 13th.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, motion to approve. Thank you.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Thiemann,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes,
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Do we have communications?
I do have some things I wanted to report. The Hall of Fame plaques have been added to the display case, so please view that before you leave the building. There are also banners in the gym that have been updated. I also wanted to mention that we did lead testing for our water. We're required to do that every 3 years, and the last time we did that was 2016. We should be getting our results shortly, and we will post those results to the website when they're available. Our annual audit is scheduled to start during the week of December 13th. And I have a project status update. The high school curtain wall is in production. The contractor is going to install temporary exterior soffit insulations within the next week. Solutions Architect requested a proposal to replace existing soffit lighting with new LED lighting, and material scheduled for delivery in late December with installation to follow. The Roosevelt window replacement. Windows are in production. The contractor recommended replacing most of the steel lintels, which are beams for those who don't know. Solutions Architecture inspected the lintels with our structural engineer and identified a number of lintels that need to be replaced. And the contractor will be providing a proposal for the replacements. The high school in Roosevelt controls project is complete and will be closing out. The Roosevelt Grant Elementary School roofs and soffits complete and closing out. The Grant boiler replacement, we completed the final startup and training will follow. High school gym, additional work was done to install temporary lighting and connected to the existing generator. We talked about providing an additional seal coat on the gym floor, but at a date to be determined. Contractors are awaiting delivery of the remainder of the lighting and the doors.
And thank you. Also, thank you for the diligence of the maintenance department and Mrs. Grabstein to complete the Hall of Fame wall for the many members of our community that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame over the years. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other communications? Committee reports? I'll go in order. Faculty and programs. Would like to go do a short review. Trustee Rodriguez is here to do the normal faculty and programs. Finance, trustee Fernandez.
Hey, good evening, everyone. George Fernandez, Chairman of the Finance Committee. We met as a committee on Monday, November 15th, to discuss specifically the 3 grants and the pertaining to agenda items 121, 122, 124. We basically, as a group, wanted to have a better understanding of where our funding from these grants were going to be spent and allocated. This meeting was driven by a $3.7 million in grants that we were about to receive. So it was a pretty important meeting we wanted to have and discuss in detail. Other than that, we also discussed the replacements of certain items and going forward to our new budget leading into the new year. That is all.
Thank you, trustee Fernandez. Trustee O'Neill, policy?
The policy committee met. In attendance were myself, President Gibbons, Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Gomes, and Dr. Martinez. We discussed several policies, including the dress code, our approved virtual plan, and other regulations and policies shown on tonight's agenda.
Thank you, trustee O'Neill. Buildings and grounds?
Buildings and Grounds Committee did not meet, but Carrie just gave you an update on all the projects.
Thank you. Personnel?
Not at this time.
And I believe that concludes our committee reports.
Chris, I have a comment on committee reports,
Yes,
with your permission.
of course.
I'm a little bit worried about the communication on the board at present. In June, I made a motion that we reconsider sending the 2 early payments to the state in view of the pending litigation and a couple of other factors. And I was directed by you to quash the motion and to wait on discussion by the Finance Committee about that payment. That discussion never took place, at least not with me present. In September, I raised the issue of perhaps rededicating the gym to Mr. Hatton, who's an unquestionable local hometown hero, and to have the gym rededicated to him. And I again was told to quash the motion and instead wait discussion by the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Discussion, if it happened, I see that a decision was made, but I was not part of that discussion. And so I think that in the future, we may need to discuss more things in public so that the 10 of us are in on certain decisions that were made. In June, we ran out the clock and the payment was made without discussion. And while the construction was done on the gym, I saw the gym. The gym was clean. The floor was clean. And I was not privy to any discussion about that decision.
The Buildings and Grounds Committee did meet to discuss that, and a remedy was brought up to honor all of the people, including Mr. Hatton, that were involved in 9/11. And thank you for initially bringing that up. Without that, we wouldn't have gone forward to decide that. And, also any board member at any time could bring anything up to me. In finance, it was discussed several times, the initial payment and the extra payment being made.
In the future, I'll be holding us to having the motion, to making a motion and asking us to discuss these things in
I
public.
do remember that motion was made at the end of a meeting. And, for things with such a sensitivity, we do need further discussion with certain committees. And that certainly was one of them.
That's why I agreed with the discussion happening, but the discussion never happened is my point. My point is not that these things should not be discussed. My point is that I was not privy to any discussion on those 2 topics.
I think there's more. We did have that discussion, Dr. Martinez, and there was a number of other individuals who sacrificed their lives that came from this school. And one of the things we have to remember before we do anything, we have to reach out to the families to see if they're in favor of doing something. We just can't arbitrarily go ahead and do it.
Dr. Haines, the superintendent's report, if we have no other questions. Thank you.
Welcome. So I'd like to go ahead and start the superintendent's report by elevating Nurse Erin. Nurse Erin Aguilar to start the superintendent report.
Hello,
Welcome.
how are you? Good evening.
Good evening.
Um, just wanted to start out and let you guys know that as far as the town of Virtual Park goes, we've seen some pretty low numbers over the past couple weeks. We did have an increase this past week. Hopefully it's the end of it. We were seeing around 2 cases per week being reported. This past week, we got a report of 9. The schools themselves have been doing really well, and I want to thank everybody for their cooperation with everything and keeping their kids home when they're sick. We don't really have very much going on in the buildings. We do have some students with, the common cold and strep throat and stuff like that, but the nurses are working extremely hard trying to get everybody screened and tested if needed, and I think it is really making a big difference. I also wanted to let you guys know that as of right now, our staff vaccinated number is up over 94%. Each building has just a few staff members that have not been vaccinated, and those could be for several different reasons. A few of them are medical related, and the nurses are tracking those staff members weekly with COVID tests. We also did a questionnaire for the high school age students because that point it was the only student that could get vaccinated back in August. We were a little bit over 60%. I believe we're higher than that now, and there's an anticipation that we are going to send out a new survey probably after the first of the year, in the new year. Now that students between the ages of 5 and 11 can get vaccinated, we're probably going to give them a couple months to get on top of that if they choose to, and then do another survey just to see where we sit as far as the numbers go. There was a email that went out about a program that was affiliated with Leonia School District. And just so everybody is clear, we are not asking, it's not required that students get vaccinated. Of course, we promote it and think it's a wonderful thing to do. If you have any questions, whether to vaccinate your child or not, we do recommend speaking with your child's pediatrician. But there are some programs out there, including Leonia's program that is working with a medical facility that will be in Leonia vaccinating students if they choose to. I think, let's see. Oh, and one more thing, if you have your child vaccinated, please remember to send the cards to the school nurses just so medical records can be updated. We put that into their medical records along with the rest of their childhood immunizations. And it does help if we are contact tracing, because if your child is fully vaccinated and is identified as a close contact in school, they are not required to quarantine. So that information is extremely important to the nurses. I think that's it for this evening. Does anybody have any questions, any concerns?
Question from Dr. Martinez.
Sure.
Mr. Aguilar, I'm going to dip my toe into this question. In your network of nurses, of school nurses around the state, what's the feeling on, now that the election is over, what's the feeling on where they're going to go with mask mandates? And at what point we'll be going voluntary with mask mandates the way we do in other settings? Is that going to be a thing?
I don't think, we haven't really heard anything yet. And they don't really like to leak too much information to us until it's a little bit closer to that time. I am hoping that we can get through the holidays and continue to keep our numbers very low. And I'm hoping the first of the year, maybe we'll bring some new insight on some information. And I believe that, I hate to say this, but I think the more children that get vaccinated, I think the closer we will come to the removal of the mask or the mandate at school. Sorry. Of course, the dogs are
No
barking.
problem, there's Aguilar.
Yeah, I think he's agreeing. I think he's agreeing.
I do have a question, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Bernard
trustee
Gomes
Gomes.
has a question.
Nurse Aaron, I don't know if this is for you or Dr. Haynes. Are we going to change any advice going home for the families for the Thanksgiving holiday coming up? Because we're not going to meet again before the holidays. I know there's always concerns and advice that goes out. So have you guys come up with anything yet so far?
I think the last notice I sent out was before, it was at the end of October, I believe. And it is the same advice that I would send out again. I can go ahead and resend that just before Thanksgiving. That's fine. Would be the same notice. Yep. We're not changing any of our notices, if that's the question. Okay. Nurse Aguilar, thank you again.
Thank you.
I think we're in
Very
such a good
much.
state due to your work and the work of other nurses. So
Yes,
it's greatly
thank you so
appreciated.
much. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to thank our audiovisual staff for providing a smart board for the public to see as well. And also, if you're going to speak, we have a sign-in sheet up front. You could begin to sign in so that we could organize our minutes later on. I found after recommendation, it makes it a lot easier.
So I have a segue statement into our next two presentations. There were a few incidents over the past few weeks that seemed to heighten our community consciousness. For example, one day when hot meals were not available for 6 of our students because the lunch server, in trying to perform a good deed, passed out a few pre-ordered hot lunches. In this instance, I assure you that all children were offered food, and by the next day, our new pre-order lunch service was running smoothly. Our heightened tensions about incidents in our schools, and while we will never comment on exact situations about minors, I will say we are aware of these issues, we are on top of them, and we have a great team of administrators who are solutions-based, some of whom you'll see tonight. To the community at large, I say, I attend weekly superintendent session meetings with other East Bergen County superintendents, and we exchange notes, and we're all experiencing the same heightened incidents as compared to normal, as we've come back to in-person learning. I believe our students are in great need of being reacclimated to appropriate social skills, while I sense our families, with a heightened sense of empowerment from social media, also seem to need support with navigating in-person socialization. Due to this, as a district, we are even more focused on district goal number 1. And it's one of the reasons that we created wellness weekends. All of you who in the community received that communication today as homework-free zones for you to enjoy the company of your entire family at these times and to provide our students with social and emotional skills and resources that can best support them during these challenging times. I'd like to take a minute and convey, however, some of the details from my vantage point. I see proud football teams, both middle school and high school, compete at the state level and bring us great sense of joy and pride to our community. This includes the coaches, the fans, and the entire village of Ridgefield Park. Go Scarlets. I walk into cafeterias and I see the enjoyment of students talking to each other, mostly without devices, generally excited to share and revel in each other's company. You get a sense that our kids really like each other. They like being together and they like sharing. I peek into classrooms and I see teachers sharing their excitement about reading a new passage, trying a new robotic skill, or listen to a live in-person invited guest, a professional who shares of themselves the information about their experiences and their unique careers. I see successful book fairs, I see excited classrooms, and I see administrators who care and who are building positive cultures. Over the past 2 weeks, all of our district goal committees have met separately to create individual action plans. And we plan to present a draft, each of the 3 committees plans to present a draft of these 18-month action plans in the beginning of the new year. All of this I say because there are going to be bumps and difficulties as we reacclimate to our school district. But I don't want us to lose sight of all the good that is going on. Towards this, I share the excitement of these perspectives as an entryway into our 2 presentations tonight, starting with Melissa Cavins, our high school principal, and followed by Jamie Hasselberger, our high school supervisor of counseling services. Welcome, Mrs. Cavins. Thank you, Mrs. Lanapona, for the technical support.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate you inviting me this evening to speak to you all about school reopening, the first 10 weeks. It's hard to believe that 10 weeks have come and gone. It feels in some ways like a lifetime, and in other ways, it feels like the blink of an eye that yesterday was the first day of school. So tonight I'm going to speak to you a little bit about the overview of our first 10 weeks back in the building through the lens of student life and the return after the pandemic. So school opening typically goes through a series of steps that are customary that school administrators are no stranger to. One of those is scheduling logistics, not a problem. We have an excellent team in place for that. Second is health and safety, especially in the ongoing pandemic. Again, not a bad year for that because we did have a year of practice with that. What our main concern was this year coming back into school was reintegration. The reintegration of students into a full school day together, the reintegration of being physically present in the building after an 18-month period of on and off being at home, the reintegration of being at full capacity in a building of about 1,200 students, plus a whole staff, and most importantly, reintegration after the social isolation and pause in peer interactions that are part of the high school experience. So this is where we wanted to shift our focus. And I'm using the term reintegration purposely. It's not an official NJDOE term. This is actually something borrowed from the military. I've adapted this and applied this in this situation. Reintegration is the name of the period post-deployment. A deployment, as well as a pandemic, is a time of separation, changing roles, sacrifice, missed life experiences, and fear. So just with service members, young people who have experienced these over the past 18 months are facing challenges as they become reacquainted with school life, reset their academic expectations, and renegotiate their roles with peers. So coming into a school year, what do we do to address these needs? We start by building a strong foundation. So any educators in this room will be familiar with this graphic that I'm showing, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This provides a model for how humans are motivated and able to reach their full potential. Without the bottom layer of the hierarchy, students can't reach the next level. Examples of how Maslow's needs present in a school setting, for example, physiological needs, access to breakfast and lunch, clean clothing, a safe place to rest, and to be able to sleep. The safety needs as they play out in a school, clear routines, access to adults who can help physical and mental health needs, and COVID precautions in place, especially for this year. So our area of focus in the next layer in bringing together this reintegration in a positive way is to focus on their sense of belonging. Sense of belonging is an essential human need. It's found within families, friendships, memberships, or community. It's found within a school every single day, whether in the classroom or outside the classroom. So with this approach in mind, positive school culture, this isn't something that's just my opinion, but this is actually backed by research. There are contributing factors to positive school culture that are proven time and time again through student participation in extracurricular, co-curricular, or athletic activities being associated with these positive outcomes. Positive outcomes including improved attendance, improved academic outcomes, and reduced discipline and referrals. If you are a research nerd and you'd like me to send you any of these articles, just let me know. So the question then becomes, how do we create the space for our students to find this belonging after a year and a half of this separation? So we create opportunities for students to connect with their peers in and out of the classroom. We create the conditions where our students feel comfortable to seek out their peer connections through these common interests. We encourage the promotion of social interaction inside and outside the classroom in low-threat ways. And most importantly, we model the enthusiasm and belief in the importance of our social connections and our collective identity as Scarlets. So belonging within a school environment has 4 facets that we're looking at right now. We have, as I mentioned, our extracurricular clubs and activities. We have our co-curricular club activities. We have our athletics, and of course, increased opportunities, spontaneous and not spontaneous, for socialization, human connection, and expression of belonging. So what has that looked like here over the past 10 weeks? I'm going to give you an overview of where we are currently with our offerings for students and where we're going to be going. So in front of you, unfolding, is a list of the current extracurricular club and activity offerings that we have here in the school. We're approaching 30. There's new ones being approved every month, which we're very grateful for. And we hope to continue to support our students who come to us, who approach us with an idea, a passion, a belief in something, and they want others to join. So we've been able to do that this year, and it has been tremendous. And I've got, of course, photos to show you. Co-curricular activity offerings. These complement the curriculum. Some of these are membership-based, some of them are based upon certain requirements, but these are complementary activities. Many of them take the approach of being pro-social. In other words, membership in a National Honor Society isn't just a badge of honor, it then bestows them the responsibility of being school leaders and serving others. Of course, we have our athletic offerings, and of course, coming out of a great fall season, and I have to say, I attribute the good spirit and goodwill to a very successful fall athletic season. We're all very, very happy about that. The organized opportunities for social gathering and belonging. These are the things that maybe don't fall into a normal list of things that are offered on a college guide, but opportunities. The first one listed, walk your schedule day. That was a very important thing for us to be able to offer our students, because we were working through the summer, getting a sense from our students that one of the things they were apprehensive about coming back was to a building that either they have known and forgotten, or a building they've never been part of. That's a very scary thing, because as you know, your mind wanders and you picture the worst. So having that opportunity for students was a fantastic one. We had an excellent turnout. Since school has started, we have had school-sponsored activities such as the bonfire night, and you see a picture right there. Excellent turnout, sponsored by student government. The fall ball for 9th and 10th graders, that was last week in this very room. It felt very different in there last week. A lot of fun. We had Week of Respect, where we had daily activities that students had the opportunity to participate and show their belonging. Halloween dress up, which I think the staff had just as much fun as the students, if not maybe more so. And then the creation of our RP student section, which is, I think, one of the hallmarks that show our students taking the leadership of showing their school spirit, identification, and commitment to being a Scarlet. So I'm going to show you some wonderful photos, show you some highlights of the past 10 weeks of school. So first up, we have our first PE class in our newly renovated gym.
Wow.
And that was amazing. And this was a period 2 class, and standing in the threshold and hearing the students as they walk in say, oh, wow, look at that. It was amazing, and it was genuine, and it's wonderful. And our basketball players are looking forward to a basketball season where they are playing with pride on our home court. That's been a wonderful asset for our students, and they're very proud. We have our Kindness Rocks project that was sponsored by one of our sociology classes. And these rocks were painted by students with loving and kind messages and placed randomly all around school property, maybe even a little bit in Veterans Park, with the intention of a student, another person, another human being finding them at just the right moment. We have our pep rally, which is an annual event that takes place. And it was really one of the highlights of, or a hallmark rather, for our students this year to have a pep rally once more, everybody gathering together to celebrate the successes and the excitement of our senior players in athletics. We have a new club this year, just one of many, the Anime Club, and boy, did they enjoy the Halloween party. They were in full costume and they had a wonderful time. I have to tell you, this is one of our biggest clubs right now, with middle school and high school involvement alike. Special thanks to Ms. Pugliese for being the advisor. We have the aforementioned fall ball. I don't know if you're going to get any sound on that, but the image of those kids dancing was one of the best sights I've seen at a school dance in years. They were having so much fun together, and it was a wonderful time. Thank you to the class advisors for sponsoring that. Another highlight and new thing for us this year, we have an esports team. And of course, I'm sure any of you who have children or adults, you know how much or how popular video games are right now. So our very own esports team is 30 members strong. They're having a great time. This is an internal tournament that they had, and I went up there around 5 p.m. and they were still going and still going strong. So we're looking forward to our competition with other schools starting in January. As I mentioned before, our student section, and I want to, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. We have our Interact Club. That is a community service-based club that participated in the Alzheimer Walk at Overpeck Park a few weekends ago and showed their support. So the most telling and most important thing I want to share with you over these last 2 weeks was that the student section is an actual established thing now. I want to give my thanks and my shout out to this year's senior class of 2022. When I met a few of them early on, the first few days of school, speaking to them, I told them, you know, you are the torchbearers of our school culture. How you operate, how you conduct yourselves, and the traditions you wish to uphold, you're setting the tone for everybody else that follows you because you're the keepers of this information. You are the last group to fully experience and live this. And boy, have they taken this to new levels. I had senior students come to me and ask me, can we have a student section at the football game? And I couldn't say yes fast enough because they're getting this idea that togetherness is important, showing each other support is important, and being together and belonging to something is important. It feels good to them. So this has been a true highlight to see this collaboration and connectedness among our students. It doesn't stop there. Our staff has had a great time coming back together. That was one of the things I enjoyed the most when I was a teacher here before I returned to district, was the collaboration and team spirit and fun that we had together. So this is an example from the end of college kickoff week. We had an alumni day in which all of us represented our various alma maters so that we were modeling for our seniors and juniors and sophomores and everybody that, you know, we represent all of these places, some public schools, some private schools, some state colleges. And you know what? We all made the best of it. And, you know, we are where we are because of the paths that we chose. How can we help you find your path? I mentioned Halloween. This is a longstanding tradition in this building, our departmental Halloween photos. These are actually all teachers that you're seeing in these photos. These are actually not even student Halloween costumes, but it's something that is a beloved tradition that was back in full force this year. And I think also a very good indicator of where the staff is feeling in terms of their excitement being back here as well. So we're 10 weeks in. There's a lot more work to be done. I'm very proud of what's been accomplished in the past 10 weeks. I'm very proud to be the principal of this building. I will always be RP's #1 cheerleader, always and forever. So I want to leave you with just a few things that we're going to be working on moving forward. I would love to, and maybe it's a lofty goal, but I would love to have every student part of some organization or activity or club or sport. Everybody should belong to at least one thing, and I think that's very important. We'd love to maintain our ability that we currently have to support student interest and student-led activities. So when students come to us with new ideas, we can say, you know what, we can do that. Let's do that. You want to start this club? Let's do it. You want to join this organization? Let's do it. And we hope we can keep that momentum. We want to continue to highlight our student successes and showcase our student successes, and also begin to recognize the individual positive actions and contributions. And this is part of building an overall positive school culture and bringing that information and so many wonderful things out to the community so you all know the wonderful things that are happening here. So I'll end with a request, if you don't mind, if you would like to continue to follow our progress and process and everything that we're proud of here, follow us on Instagram, RPHS Scarlets, very simple. And we also have a Twitter account as well. And there you're going to get a very good sample of all of the wonderful things that are happening here on a daily basis. I'm very pleased to introduce next my colleague, Jamie Hasselberger, who's going to share more wonderful information with you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight and giving me this opportunity to discuss so much excitement that happened in our building today. Today, the guidance department hosted an instant decision day. My 3 high school counselors, Mrs. DiMiola, Ms. Hameda, and Mrs. Kopek, have been working since the summer on this project and getting schools together to meet with our students. That's good, thank you. We had 14 colleges and universities who participated today. 9 were in person and the rest were virtual because of them coming from a distance. And we took over the media center all day. We have our students at the top waiting to be seen by admissions reps. And then you could see down at the bottom, the admissions reps meeting with our students one-on-one to review their application and give them an immediate college decision, many with scholarship offerings on the spot. Some of the colleges, Berkeley College, we had 2 students apply, both accepted. Collectively, $12,000 in scholarship, with one of our students a candidate for the honors program. If she does get into that honors program, which I'm confident she will have a full tuition. So that's very exciting. Caldwell University, 11 students and applied. $550 were saved in application fees. Caldwell College waived those fees for our students. And $193 was offered to our students today for Caldwell College. Fairleigh Dickinson, 20 students were seen today and accepted on the spot, and their scholarship packets will come in the next month. Felician, 10 students, $360 in application fees waived. $146,000 offered to our students today in scholarships. Georgian Court, we had 2 students apply, both accepted, their application fees were waived, and $32,000 in scholarships. Montclair State University, 19 students, all accepted today. $7,000 offered in scholarships. More scholarship money is pending. And we have a group of students going out to Montclair State University on Friday to tour the campus. 2 weeks from now, we have another group of students going out to Universal Technical Institute, a trade school for our students. NJCU, 4 students. You can see $40,000 offered to our students in scholarships. You can imagine the excitement as students walked away from an admissions rep with an acceptance letter in their hand and a scholarship opportunity presented to them. Ramapo College, 20 students, and they will give our scholarship information within the next month or so. Seton Hall, 16 students, $191,000 was given to our students today. This is renewable every year for our students. And we always say it's a great day to be a Scarlet. We had 43 seniors participate today. 111 applications were submitted and reviewed today. Every single student was accepted to their college. Almost $5,000 in application fees was saved. And that number of just over $700,000 was offered to our students here at Ridgefield Park High School. It was an amazing, amazing, emotional, exciting day for our students. It was fantastic. This was as the end of the day. And there were still some colleges that still weren't updating because this was an all-day event that took place. You could see some of our students with their pennants, the excitement. They would walk away from the table with an admissions rep, call their mom, call their dad. They were all high-fiving, hugging. It will be great conversation at the Thanksgiving dinner table for sure. And so I always say, and this is Mrs. Cavens, why not RP? This is a great place to be. We offer so much to our students. So many great things are happening here. And I'm so excited to be able to share the great things that are happening in our district. Thank you.
Mrs. Cavens and Mrs. Hesberger, thank you. This is why we are so proud. You represent us so well. Thank you both for everything.
That was
That's how it's done.
Thank you.
That concludes the superintendent report. There's no way I'm going after that.
Thank you, everyone. That was great. So many great things going on in Richfield Park. Mr. Demikoff, the monitor's report.
Yes, at prior meetings, at the request of the public, I stated that I would inform the public of the updated legal costs related to the pending litigation with Dr. Bender. We have now received the October billing from the board's attorney. So the legal cost now stands at $22,208.15. This does not include the legal fees from the state monitor's attorney that the board is obligated to pay. That bill has not been received for the subpoena information requested by Dr. Bender's attorney for the state monitor and will be ongoing. No further comments.
Thank you, Mr. Demikoff. We're going to start with citizens' comments on agenda items. Unless anyone has anything else to say, please, if you can, sign in. Also, Trustee O'Neill, is this a good time? We're going to read the public speaking new policy that was formed by the policy committee several weeks ago, and we've had 2 readings about it already. So thank you, Trustee O'Neill.
Yes, good evening. We just wanted to remind everyone that we'll continue to have 2 public comment periods, one on agenda and one off agenda. There's a sign-up sheet over by the podium. We'll call your name in the order that you sign in. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during each comment period. Time cannot be transferred to other individuals. The public comment period will be 1 hour for on-agenda items and 1 hour for non-agenda items. Thank you for your cooperation and support.
Thank you, Trustee O'Neill. I'm just going to grab the so we are going to begin on agenda items. John R.
It's on the sheet.
It's on the sheet, but yes, the name and address, sir.
John Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue, Ridgefield Park. On agenda,
If you could just wait one moment, we just want to get the timer up going. I think we initially had to start it. I apologize, Mr. Raftery.
good.
We're going to see it so everyone could view together. Right. I can begin. Is there one over there or? Usually it's on the screen. Yeah. It's you. I could actually do it. Oh, there it is. Go ahead.
Thank you. John Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue, Ridgefield Park. On agenda with the new transportation agreements, Teaneck and Dumont. And in regards to the overtime of $11,000. I did transportation for a long time, and I am wondering how we verify the hours worked overtime. The overtime says $11,000. The way I figured it, that comes out to about 100 hours a week. Is that correct?
it's hard for me to say exactly how many hours it is a week, but did you
And-
have a question about that?
Well, it's an excessive amount. I'm wondering how we verify that those hours were worked and what the drivers were doing.
Well, there are a couple of things that we're talking about now. We're revamping the timesheet for bus drivers so that we have a better sense of exactly what's happening during the
As
day.
long as it's being verified by you, I'm completely happy with that.
Thank you. It is being verified, but we are, I did speak to the transportation coordinator, and we do bus students to 38 out-of-district schools. So, and there's a driver shortage, so that, contributes to some of the overtime. But I would like to, work with Dr. Haines to really do a deep dive into this and really get an understanding of why the overtime is increasing every month.
That is correct. And then that marries up to the fact that we're going to take on 2 more districts as far as transporting students when we can't control our overtime in our own district.
Well, but there will be fees that they will pay. Dumont and Teaneck will pay.
Yeah, I understand they're paying for it, but
Right.
what is the driver in the time allotted to him doing? And as I told you before, if it's good enough for you, that's good enough for me.
Thank you.
In our audit in 2020, it was discovered there were quite a few problems with transportation from fudging time cards, et cetera. And I think that needs to be looked at closely. That whole situation needs to be monitored closely. As I said, if it's good enough for you, that's good enough for me.
Thank you. Thank you. We are aware of that, and we are looking into it and seeing what we can do to reduce that over time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your comments. Mrs. Malool? Good evening.
Janet Malool, 163 East Grand Avenue. I will tell you that this is one of the first times that I don't know what to pick first out of here. But what I'm going to start off with is and I really don't care that it may be covered by a grant. I think it's FP 76, the staff person that would be doing the basically data technology coordinator.
I'm sorry, ma'am. If the gallery could just lower their voices, I'm trying to hear the speaker.
The data technology coordinator position for a max of $825 a month. And then there's the assistant to the director of curriculum instruction operation at $3,000 a month. And then there's Dr. Haynes's stipend of $2,500 a month. That comes out to $6,325 per month extra that we are that if this goes through, you would be paying. If you divide it by 500, which seems to be the general stipend given to a retired acting superintendent, or whatever the terminology would be, somebody that comes in like we've had in the past, that comes to basically 12 days a month or 3 days per week. Okay. I'm questioning basically if all this goes through, where are we ahead? We are just digging a hole again. This reminds me of years ago. And to me, that's scary. Okay, if real forethought was given to this whole situation, I have to really wonder whether, in retrospect, this whole board would have decided things a bit differently. That's just my comment on that. The extended day program, where I have no problem with the program. However, I question, you're talking about kids that are chronically absent. Do you really think they're going to stay after school or come in over summer to go to school if they don't even come in for a regular day? You're talking about academic failures and kids struggling and needing supplemental support for mental health, for ELA, visual performing arts. I'm looking at the grouping of people that are supposedly up for the position, and they may be all, I have no problem with this, except for, where's the English teacher? Where's the math teacher? This district is notorious for saying that they have so many, that their math is in a hole, basically. Why would we not have a math teacher involved with this? There's one teacher listed, Kelly LaLave, that when I put her name in, I don't come up with what she's even teaching, that she's even teaching in district, yet I happen to know she is. I would be curious to know what she's teaching, because so far you have a phys ed teacher, an art teacher, 2 special ed, and a social studies teacher. So depending on what she's teaching, I just think that there's a lot, and there's no parameters, no nothing on the program. Now, maybe that exists, but from what I'm seeing here, how many hours is it? Are children expected to stay for 1 hour, 2 hour? Does it mean that they can't participate in sports if that's their thing? Whatever, and I'm watching my clock. So I think you get the point of that. And the other thing was this was mind-boggling, this wellness weekends. Okay. You're talking about kids that are having issues and we need to bring them in for all these extra hours. Yet you're saying that you don't want homework given over all these things, which I agree with. As a teacher, I never gave homework over breaks. However, that should be the teacher's decision. We're micromanaging. We're basically tying the hands of the teacher. If the teacher wanted to give extra credit one weekend to a kid who's really struggling at a chance to maybe up their grade, according to this, they can't do it. So I have a real problem with that as an educator and as a parent. And in all honesty, if you have a teacher that's abusing this homework issue, then go speak to the teacher. Don't make this a blanket rule for a district. And I see my time is up. So I'm just really, the micromanaging that's going on is just absurd to me. You hired professionals, let the professionals do their job. Thank you.
Yes, sure. I'll give a little quick answer to some of those things. So the spot that you were talking about for those 6 teachers under personnel, page 2, you'll notice that there was a rescinded resolution. This is not about the program or the ESSER or the extended day or anything else. It is a rescinded resolution that we put out there at the end of June 23. We are rescinding it just to approve those faculty to continue. For example, Mark Galasso has started working with students. It comes out of the VPA, Visual and Performance Art grant that we have. And if you walk down the hall to our middle school entrance, I took a picture there today of 3 girls doing a wonderful job putting up a mural on the side of the wall that proudly represents Scarlet's and our middle school. And he gets paid for that. It was, and I'll take ownership of it. When I first put this resolution out there on June 23, I did not put an end date. And in speaking to the monitor, I said, we really should rescind this. He suggested it to me. We should rescind this and put the resolution back in. It's just for the faculty. If you look back instead on page faculty and program committee, so go back to F&P, page 4, those are the grants. So the process here is we always have to accept the grants. We have to put the programs out. Tomorrow, you'll see postings out for teachers to come teach tutorial sessions and other arts programs and other things that our students need for support as we look at the Start Strong data. And all of those you can see, for example, FP 71 will be the ESSER and the CRISA grants that's approving the program so we can do the posting. So in December, you'll see the teachers on personnel. FP 72 is Title 1, FP 73 is Title 3, FP 74 is Title 4. Curriculum writing is FP 75. So those are all the programs. So I don't want to confuse the two. The programs get approved first, and then the personnel get approved in the personnel section. I hope that's a little clarity there.
Thank you, Dr. Haines.
Yes.
And thank you for your comments, ma'am. Christina Ramos.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't have much. Janet pretty much covered a few items that I wanted to go over, but I do have a question on FP. Oh boy, I forgot my glasses. FP 79 for the Director of Curriculum Assistant. It says C attached, but there was a blank page to follow. So I was wondering if that was a mistake or if there's something missing to this as a description of what exactly the assistant will be handling.
My apologies that it's not there. We will put that up online. I'll try to get that posted tomorrow.
So are they going to table this until we see that since? What is that?
It's actually going to come up. Carrie and the board spoke earlier that it will be approved as an amendment on the system.
And do we also have any word on the approval status of keeping Mr. Haines on board for another term?
Yes, Dr. Haynes is approved until February 1st.
And when do we get that approval?
About a week ago.
I'm sorry to hear that. At the last meeting? No, it was on.
It was sent out and we
It was
just got
sent
from the
out,
county
but you still had to
superintendent.
get a
during that
response
time.
back. So you got a response back and it was approved and he's on until February 1st. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Leslie Gottlieb. Good evening.
FI 33, it says that they they want to vote on a draft calendar for budget development milestones, and that was nowhere to be found. FI 33.
FI 33.
Should be.
FI 33.
FI 33.
Mhm.
133, I'm sorry.
Sorry, 133. Page 10.
And the question was, Ms. Gottlieb,
Where was the draft calendar that you're going to approve?
Draft calendar was posted online. I don't know why that calendar isn't in
will
here.
you be submitting it online eventually?
It was online, so I just don't know why there's not.
So we'll be able to view that online.
Okay. And the second question, in regard to the homework policy, for students who are taking advanced placement classes, they have a much shorter timeline than the school year. Will that be taken into consideration because their exams are in May, whereas the rest of the school will wrap up in June? So they may have to do homework during these homework-free breaks to keep up.
I know this was an initiative that the staff approved and, everybody got together about doing this, especially after the year with COVID
Right.
the students have had. But I can't exactly answer to that.
No,
I
it's
know
the
for a fact that
superintendent
students
to-
won't be hurt,
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out
academically.
there for the superintendent.
I don't mind. That's fine. So first of all, it's not a homework policy. It's a wellness weekends suggestion. It's in the spirit of this year when we look and we see that our community needs some break time. It needs time for our families to be able to socialize and rebuild a sense of community and normalcy. I would be the first one to suggest I'm not going to send out homework ticket police every time a AP teacher says, oh my God, you've got to assign homework. That's not the spirit of this either. There will be leniences. And as per a previous comment, we're not going to micromanage this. I think this is an opportunity for our faculty and our students to say, we're not going to be judged over these weekends. We want you to go home and be with your families and loved ones and relatives and rebuild those social communities that are really important at this time. It's not a policy.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes.
Excuse me, President Gibbons, can I jump in and piggyback on what Dr. Haynes is saying?
Please.
I've worked in 2 different school districts, and I'm surprised that this is now coming up here because it's always been the policies in these other districts that on certain holidays, when you say break, what does the word break mean? We pause, we take a break from it. You give them a break and then assign a quiz the first thing you come back on the Monday after a holiday. So I've seen several districts who that's their policy, and it's always been that way. And I think it would be a good policy for the families. We're here to serve our children and their families. I understand some teachers want to get things through, but that's just how some teachers are. Regardless of whether you have this policy or not, they'll want to keep pushing. But we should at least have some kind of guidelines that says, hey, why don't we let them get a mental break, refresh, and come back? Just like we do when we go to school 5 days, refresh on the weekends and come back. Well, how about doing it on a holiday also? Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Gomes. If there aren't any further comments, I'm going to move on to resolutions. Oh, I apologize. Do we have any online comments? No, thank you, Nancy. I didn't see any on the. Yes. Nobody has their hand up. Okay. We're going to move on to resolutions. I'm going to move FP. So FP 58 to FP 79, I so move. Second by trustee Verselli.
Are there any questions on resolutions FP 58 through FP 79? Seeing none?
Can I just?
Yeah, sure.
I do want to make a comment about a few things on it. FP 67, 68, just want to say thank you to all school special needs. FP 69, very cool. I think this is going to be really great. I wasn't sure what FP 70, the Anna Club is.
That is a new one. That's the actual mental health and wellness for students to get together and socialize with each other. I love this idea. And Mr. Gomes, thank you for bringing it up. It's one of the new clubs that I think will really help bring us back together. Thanks.
Thank you. Those are my comments.
Yep.
Okay. Roll call. President Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Roselli,
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes, but I have to be an abstention on FP number 62.
Mr. Thiemann,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart. Motion passes.
Thank you. Finance and insurance, trustee Fernandez.
Thank you, President Gibbons. I'd like to move finance and insurance FI 115 to FI 137.
Mr. Cathcart, was that a second? Are there any questions on FI 115 to FI 137?
No, just want to make a comment, a public comment too, that want to thank you and Dr. Haines on giving us a thorough explanation on FI 121, 122, 124, and all our plans for the future as far as our initiatives. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes, but I'll be an extension on FI 118.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Thiemann,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consent agenda.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to move the consent agenda CR 8, use of facilities, seconded by trustee Thiemann.
Okay, are there any questions on the consent agenda number 8? Seeing none, President Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Thiemann,
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and Mr. Cathcart.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Trustee Thiemann, personnel.
Yes. Are we putting that resolution carry as 128 tonight or?
Yes,
I sent it by email to Dr. Haines, to Ms. Grabstein, and to Mr. Gibbons earlier, like a few minutes ago. Do you want me to read it out loud? I don't know if you're able to check your email.
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem. It is
Thank you.
resolved. No problem. So it is resolved that the Board of Education, on the recommendation of the Acting Superintendent of Schools, approves the job descriptions for the position of Data Technology Coordinator and Assistant to the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Operations. So to be clear, this resolution covers 2 job descriptions.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright.
You're welcome.
I move P 106 through P 128.
Are there any questions regarding P 106 to P 128? Seeing none, Mr. Thaman,
Yes.
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes, but I'll be abstention on 127 and 128.
Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez.
I just want to say before I vote on the last 2 items, the last 3 items, the 2 new positions, I too share the concern of growing costs to the district. However, I do know that the district right now is purchased a lot of curriculum material, and we're in a really big transition period, and that we need to make sure that these things are implemented properly, that they don't sit on shelves for too long. So I'm a yes.
Thank you. Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That will conclude our resolution section. For 3 minutes. So we'll be right back with you in a moment.
Yes.
If people have finished signing up on the sign up list for off agenda items, I'll go ahead and collect that. Last opportunity. Yeah, it is a state mandate now. And we won't have that information because the 5 to 11-year-old, the vaccine was released like a week ago. We've had a lot of discussion. Should we put out a survey now? It's probably not going to capture. We figured after the holidays, maybe January, February, we'll put out a survey and really get a sense of how many. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's something we don't need to talk about. There were about 50, and more than half of them, about 40, if I could show you the results, but about 40 of them were the age 5 through 11 for the Pfizer, which is what we're hosting. And I figured it was just easier. It's right over the bridge if our kids want to take advantage of that, rather than us trying to start vaccination cycle.
That's why.
So that's yeah. So that's why I put it out there. I said, if you guys want to go ahead, to limit email. Did you see my email last today? That's what I said. Sorry, I just sent it out this morning. So it was some of you who have expressed an interest in getting your 5 to 11-year-old vaccinated. Unus hosting in a vaccination clinic on the 23rd.
Yeah,
so that half day that we're actually giving them on.
Not too bad.
Go sign up and yeah.
We get out of here.
I actually traveled over to that weekend, and well, I wore it on the airplane. Yeah, it depends. On the airplane, I will absolutely. I'm thinking even after this.
question. It's your choice. Maybe now, he's pandering, he's pandering. Full school year data. There's no data that mask.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're moving on to citizens' comments off agenda items. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes. And we have an hour stoppage time for comment section. So it's now 9:15. Mrs. Malool, thank you. Yes, and we're okay with our online comments. We'll be able to see the hands raised, correct? Yeah,
January 163 East Grand. First of all, I would like to thank some of our board members who, and let's see, Mr. Gibbons, Mr. Seaman, or Linda, I forget her last name, Rodriguez, and Diane Demon for coming to the Green Team meeting. I have to say, and I'm going to say this publicly, I saw a side of Mr. Gibbons that I did not expect to see. It was a very positive piece. And actually, I'm hoping that a little of that wore off because you seem in a little different demeanor today. So that's a compliment. Okay.
Thank you.
The discussions that we had were, I think, huge. We covered a lot of ground, maybe not in depth, but the final outcome still boils down to that we will not have a rep on the Green Team. And so we are moving on from that. So that's the last you're going to hear about it from me. To me, it's a little obvious that, and I could be totally wrong, but when no one on the staff the size of this district will take the time to volunteer for something that connects the town to a school, there's a problem. And I can say that from experience. I spent over 30 years in the educational system as a teacher. And there were times when either there was uncooperative boards or some kind of issue going on in the district that everybody just backed off. We came in, we did our job, and we would not do anything beyond that. And that's the sense I'm getting. And I hope that changes. I know there was a great PowerPoint earlier about how wonderful things are, you know, as far as activities and stuff, and that's great. But I'm going to make a comment that the middle school through the high school age kids are out of control in this town right now. So I don't know what's the deal is here, but for outside of school, they are out of control. Halloween was a disaster. People had stuff stolen from their front steps, decorations destroyed. That's not acceptable behavior. Just the other day, Monday, there was a young lady that attends the school here who parked on that end of Overpack on the wrong side of the street. My husband politely said to her, "You might want to move the car so you don't get a ticket." Her response was, "What do I care?" She says, "I don't pay him anyway. I'm not moving my car," and walked off. So there's a real attitude adjustment that needs to be done. And, you know, I understand COVID, and the stress it put on a lot of people. But there comes a point when we can't use that as an excuse anymore. And so I really don't know what's going on with our teenagers right now. And trust me, I spent my entire career with this age group, but to me, it's getting scary. And I'm really hoping that the schools can't address everything, because if you have parents that are not going to do their jobs, then it's harder on you guys to do the job here as far as the staff goes. But I think it's something that you guys got to open your eyes to and start taking note of, that something is definitely up. And yes, we have our kids that are doing great and doing everything they're supposed to do, but there's a large population and it's growing. The same thing with the kids that come tearing down on the bicycles straight at your car. And one day, one of them's going to get hit and it's going to be the poor driver that's stuck. Okay, so what we're seeing, what I'm seeing is, to me, it's very disturbing. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Sean Sadler.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jay Sean Sadler, 139 Overpeck Avenue. Okay, so I just a couple of questions which don't necessarily have to be answered right now. But who made the decision to name the junior senior high school basketball court Dr. John Richardson Court? When exactly was the decision made and when was it executed? Why wasn't community input or approval sought out in making this decision? And doesn't this board have some moral or ethical obligation to include community input in making such a decision regarding the spending of our tax dollars on communal property? Please advise. So that's the first part. Okay, so good evening, President Gibbons, trustees, and community members, and thank you for allowing me your audience. I know I don't have much time, so I'll make an effort to be as concise as I possibly can. As a father of children in this school district, and as a tax-paying citizen whose interest this board is supposed to represent, it has been incredibly frustrating to feel effectively marginalized by some of its members. While I know that I'm far from the only citizen who feels this way, I will limit my reflection this evening to my own experience. As I stated at the last board meeting, I have sent multiple correspondence regarding issues of serious concern that have been ignored and summarily dismissed by both President Gibbons and Trustee Cathcart. Any sincere actor, upon hearing me address these concerns publicly over the course of several months, would have made some minimal effort by now to engage and address my correspondence. This, unfortunately, but predictably, has not been the case. President Gibbons, when I brought this matter directly to your attention last meeting, you stated with very little credibility that you couldn't recall if you ever received correspondence from me. Curiously, moments after I spoke, my fellow community member, Jenny Fernari, publicly thanked you for responding to her correspondence sent to you during the same time period when I sent my correspondence to you as well. I'm happy that Ms. Fernari was recognized and dignified with a response by you, President Gibbons. She certainly deserves as much, but I duly noted the disparity in treatment, and I'd like my fellow community members to do the same. To this day, you still have not shown the basic courtesy of even acknowledging, let alone addressing, any of my multiple correspondence. Conversely, you did somehow find the time to inappropriately, unethically, and fallaciously besmirch the character of myself and another parent on Facebook. Your capricious and differential application of values and your failure to take responsibility for clear wrongdoing is counterproductive to the leadership our community needs. Also, at last month's meeting, Mr. Cathcart disingenuously cited chain of command and a sad and weak effort to disavow responsibility for his own failure to respond to or even acknowledge a serious concern I presented to him on multiple occasions. Conversely, he had no problem violating this so-called chain of command to give dangerous medical misinformation to our community when he unethically circumvented the medical professionals we have on staff to inform us on matters regarding COVID. Both President Gibbons and Trustee Cathcart have failed to exhibit the courage, character, and competence our community needs from the people we entrust with the important positions they hold. For this reason, many of us find it impossible to trust our own trustees on critical matters like the dubiously questionable decision to suspend Dr. Bender or the conspicuous attempts to undermine the state monitor, Mr. Demikoff. In conclusion, I hereby am forced to give up on you both. Having made a months-long concerted and sincere attempt to respectfully address these matters of concern in good faith, I will no longer ask either of you, President Gibbons or Trustee Cathcart, to do as all of us expect even our young children to do. Take responsibility for your obvious mistakes and take action to correct them. You have both demonstrated yourselves to be unwilling and/or unable to act with integrity and courage in this regard. It's quite sad, but I accept it for what it is. Nonetheless, I am not discouraged because as recent events have shown, another board is possible. A board composed of trustees who act ethically and with transparency. A board composed of trustees who not only listen to, but value and incorporate the voices of parents and the larger community into decisions made on our behalf. A board composed of trustees who show respect to all community members, not just a chosen few. A board composed of trustees that foster a spirit of loving inclusion and collaboration as they work with competence and compassion to serve our community. My fellow community members and I will continue using every moral, ethical, legal, and peaceful means at our disposal to bring this vision to fruition. We don't need trustees who make excuses. We need trustees who make a way. Thank you to those trustees, district staff, and fellow community members who are already doing this work. Your efforts are greatly appreciated, and I am with you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ronald Hidalgo. Good evening.
Good evening, Ronald Hidalgo, 335 Teaneck Road. To begin, I would like to congratulate the new winners of the election, the newly elected board members. Congratulations and welcome. And I know you guys will make the right decisions for the people and the children of Ridgefield Park, because I have spoken to you personally, and I know you have the best intentions to do so. I hope you do a great job, and I believe that you want to do so. But first of all, I want to go a little back in the past. When we were looking for a superintendent, and some of the people in this board right now decided to ask for the new superintendent to be experienced, later wanted it to be with a doctorate degree, and now you guys having a position, somebody who had no experience at all in being a superintendent. Congratulations. And I know you guys did it just because you wanted to do so. And also, this board has made decisions that are costing us thousands of dollars, probably millions of dollars. Sending extra payments on an interest-free loan and deciding to send the superintendent home without any valid cause, just because you wanted to do so. This board doesn't want to answer questions from the public when it doesn't favor them. Limiting the time, interrupting the speakers that don't agree with you, and changing the policies and asking public to go on a website and ask questions, and only 3 out of 12 questions have been answered. Refusing to be accountable and depriving the public of vital answers and information, picking and choosing what questions to answer, appearing that they have no interest in the public interest or input just because you want to. And this attitude of wanting to do whatever you want instead of doing what is right and best for the children and taxpayers of Ridgefield Park is what got us into the hole in the past. And before we go back into the hole, we, the people of Ridgefield Park, have our way to do stuff. And before we act, we would like you to resign if you're not interested in doing the right thing. And just to save us the trouble of going through the ways that we have to remove you just because we want to.
Thank you for your comments. John Raftery?
John Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue. My next question is for our state monitor. At the Board of Ed meeting on September 15th, the Little Ferry representative, Mr. Feitros, commented to you that the superintendent of schools from Little Ferry would contact you before the end of the week in regards to the $1 million payment. Could you please update the status of that for us, Mr. Demikoff?
Sure. At the September Board of Ed meeting, Mr. Feitros stated that I would hear from the Little Ferry superintendent before our October Board of Ed meeting. I did not hear from him by that date. On November 12th, I was copied on a letter to the county superintendent regarding the payment of the $1,042,725.27 for the 2018-19 certified adjusted tuition owed to Ridgefield Park by Little Ferry. It is now in the county superintendent's hands.
Did the superintendent give you a reason for not making the payment?
I had no contact with the Little Ferry superintendent, other than receiving a copy of a letter he sent to the county.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have no payment from Little Ferry on the $1 million. Does the board have any information on that? Okay, we have the superintendent from the Little Ferry Schools serving on our finance committee, our negotiation committee, and they're refusing to pay us $100. I'm sorry, $1 million. Something stinks.
Not sure.
Something stinks. And we would hope the board look into it. This is Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Not Ridgefield Park, Little Ferry, Ridgefield Park. The Little Ferry students are entitled to the best that we can offer them. But that is on a agreement made with their Board of Education. They're entitled to everything we're entitled to, so it has nothing to do with the students. What it has to do with is the finances of Ridgefield Park. You cannot possibly be on a finance committee or negotiation committee and only have input to the 9th to 12th grade, because our committees involve the whole school system. And to have someone serving who is not a taxpayer or resident of Ridgefield Park, but instead represents an outside interest as the president of the Board of Education, president of Board of Education of the sending district, is clearly an ethics violation. Whether that be legally or morally is to be determined.
I'll let you finish. I have an answer to that.
I'm finished with that.
Mr. Feitros is allowed to serve on committees
I'm not
in Ridgefield
questioning
Park,
that.
and our legal counsel has advised us he is allowed to. And there's no conflict of interest, and there's certainly no ethics violation.
You don't feel that having the president of the Board of Education from Little
It is not. It
Ferry,
was cleared by our legal counsel, Mr. Raftery.
excuse me?
It was cleared by our legal counsel, Mr. Raftery. No, it is not a conflict.
As I said before, whether that be legally or morally are two different things. And unfortunately, the town is expecting our Board of Education to do what is right. This is not a courtroom, although it appears to be one the last couple of meetings. We are asking, I'm sorry, sir, please.
So was your question to Mr. Demikoff in essence that he received a response or a check?
I wanted to know actually both.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I
Mr.
left it.
Demikoff, can you elaborate a little bit more on this? Because I don't think any of our board members were informed of this at all.
I did not receive
you.
any correspondence. I was told at the September meeting that I would hear from the Little Ferry Superintendent. I did not get any communication from him other than receiving a copy of a memo that went to the county office.
Any update on the check matter?
There has been no payment made to date of the 1,042,725.
So just so we're all on the same page, public taxpayers, we're not informed of any of this.
I'm sorry, what?
We're not being informed of any of that.
That's a problem right there.
I think it starts from the top.
I can't comment on that. I can only comment that
It's great that you know and we don't know.
what is that?
That you know the status of this receivable and we do not.
That's because I'm very concerned about my town and $1 million that Little Ferry owes us. And I would hope the Board of Education would feel the same way.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Raftery. We have to move on to other members.
I appreciate your questions, believe me. Look into it. Take some time.
I'm glad you know, we don't.
I'll be glad. Anything I can help you with, I'm
Okay.
here.
Can we please have the next person to comment? Leonie Reber? Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, good evening. I live in 133 Hudson Avenue, and I'm a mom that had 3 kids here in Ridgefield Park Schools. The reason of my presence here is because I think we all, as adults and parents, should speak up for the children, should speak up and defend them. They don't have a voice. We are the ones that we can defend them. So my topic tonight has to do with the mandated masking, which I'm going to make some bold expressions. If you need information, I can leave my email. I can show you where it is. So first of all, I have 5 minutes. I'm going to do as fast as I can. Masks do not work. There's already, for many previous, any medical literature before 2019, you will see that surgical masks do not work, do not stop viruses. I'm a chemist also. My major was a chemistry in college. I was a research analytical chemist. So.
Sorry, ma'am. If the gallery could just quiet down, we can't hear the speaker. And I'll let you finish, but I have an answer to that. You know, we are mandated by the state.
Okay, I'm
and
just
there's,
saying,
you know,
let me hear you. I'm gonna
Go ahead,
challenge you.
ma'am.
Okay.
I
So-
apologize.
So we agree then that if masks do not work, this is not about science, this is about power. Okay, so second point, so this is not about science, it's about power. We are using our children and we are putting this on them when it's not about science, it's about power. It is wrong. If it was by Fauci's decisions, we should be wearing all of us 2, 3 masks. 1 is not enough. So we here already breaking what he says. Second point, interesting to know, since now we realize it's about power, look at the difference between blue states and red states. Does COVID behave different in a red state? Does COVID suddenly doesn't work, doesn't kill, doesn't do the things it does in the blue state? Again, this is sad that we're in the place that we are, and our children at this time are being affected, mental health issues, emotional issues. We were not born to have our identity covered in our faces. So I think this is hurting the children. Last point, I was in here to make sure that you guys, I was able to express this. Why is my concern? I am very concerned because mask mandates equals vaccine mandates. You might say, no, it's not possible. California already mandated vaccines for the kids. Costa Rica is the first country already mandated, is mandatory for all children 5 to 11 to get the vaccine. So I'm all for choice. Many parents are saying, you want to wear your mask? You feel uncomfortable, wear your mask. To mandate it is wrong. My challenge to you is this. I already have been denied entrance at restaurants. People are losing jobs. My kids have their status to be present at colleges. being taken into consideration. Maybe you cannot go into college just because you're not vaccinated. So this is what I see, this is coming. We cannot close our eyes and think only what is right now here. We live more than ever in a global world. Austria's already closing people that are not vaccinated, and this is what is coming to our town. This is what I want the board to be challenged. We all have a choice. You say, we cannot do that. This is what happened. There was a time in history, like now, people lost jobs. People were denied entrance to restaurants, to entertainment centers. And at some point, they were denied, they were put in a place where it's confinement, and later they had a final solution. This is weird, this is crazy, call me crazy, but if we don't open our eyes, the future of our kids, it's done. If they kids, there's a lot of issues with mental illnesses because our children know the future is not a good one. What is my challenge to the board? We all have a choice. Our choice is, am I going to collaborate for the good side at the end of the night, or am I going to collaborate for the right side? Can we live with the choices that we do today? Can I sleep tonight saying, yeah, I do what I could? There's always a way to right the state. There's always a way to challenge, to talk to representatives and challenge this. This is wrong. PA just challenged the mask mandate and the mask is taking off the kids. We are a town, we could do this. We can't save Hackensack, we cannot do anything for Maywood, but we can do something for Ridgefield Park. Can we write a letter to the state? Can we ask, or we could do something. Again, we always have a choice. Do we choose to do the right thing, or we choose to collaborate with the bad side? At the end of the day, this is coming. Austria, as I said, they already locked down their citizens that are not vaccinated. It is coming here. California has vaccine mandates for the kids, and that's what I'm saying. It is a choice. If you want to vaccinate, I think it's wrong for many reasons, but it is your choice. Once you start forcing people, we are in a bad place. She mentioned, another teacher, a lot of issues with the mental health of the youth, children, teens, young adults, suicide in children, in teens and young adults, anxiety, depression. The future is not a good one. I'm excited. There's a lot of things happening here, but if you go to college, and my 3 kids in college, one of them graduated, they see the dark future that awaits them. It's not a good one. So at the end of the day, please, let's make choices. You can do something. There's always a choice.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Reber. Really appreciate it. Kevin Layden. Christina Ramos. If there are any people of the public that haven't signed the sheet, I will put down, thank you, and we'll continue with the online comments as well.
Hi,
Good evening.
Christina Ramos. I just also want to quickly congratulate Diane McNeil, Michelle Orth, and Dr. Martinez for their win. I think RP got it right this time. Congratulations, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the board and great things to come, because I think that you have the character that we need up there. So thank you for running and thank you for winning. And just to clarify something, I wasn't going to talk about this. Mr. Raftery brought it up, but I think there's a misconception that some public members are privy to some information that we shouldn't be privy to. But if we listen, we just got the information from Mr. Demikoff. John Raftery asked if we were paid for money owed to us from Little Ferry, and Mr. Demikoff made it clear that he did not receive a response, and that we did not receive a payment. So if the board doesn't know that information, I believe that you should make it your business to know what is happening with our finances. I believe that you should make it your business to follow up on our finances and follow up that we get our payment from Little Ferry. I disagree that we are Ridgefield Park only, because we are Ridgefield Park, Little Ferry, because we have students that come here from Little Ferry. So we cannot just say we are Ridgefield Park. However, they do owe us money and we need to collect it. It's time that we collect that money. And I believe that whoever's in charge of finances should make it a priority to make that happen, or take the next following steps that are needed to be taken in order to receive our payment. So with that said, I'll move on to what I actually wanted to discuss. I was recently, some parents, I guess they didn't feel comfortable in bringing this up. So they reached out to me, and apparently there was something that was supposed to be done about a PEBT card that was supposed to be sent to parents by the state. This was something that had to do with the free reduced lunch, and somebody in the district is responsible of sending this report back to the state in order for these parents to have received this money. This did not happen. So, a lot of these parents are either not working or are of low income, and this money would have come in handy to them. So we're not certain if it's lost money or if it's something that they can recuperate. So I think it's important that somebody follow up on this. It was something BEBT card, and it had to do with the free reduced lunch, about attending, I guess some kids attending full-time or part-time.
BEVT, I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry, yeah, BEBT. So somebody was responsible for forwarding a report to the state, and it seems that someone dropped the ball.
So I'll add a little clarity, or what I know a little bit about this. It's P for the pandemic, and they're EBT cards that are food cards. And I want to say there is an ongoing investigation in our district, and at this time we're awaiting more information from the state to make a determination of how we do move forward with our EBT cards. I'd say if you have questions, if there are any public members who have questions, because we are still investigating this, I'd say if you could call my office or call the business administrator's office and make an appointment, because we'd like to speak about this also.
But so you are aware of?
We are aware of it,
Okay.
and I would like members of the public, to come in and talk to us. So,
Okay.
as part of the investigation. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also, a few meetings back, or I don't know if it was one or two, but we did discuss, it came up a topic for the rededication of the floor gym. And it's come to my attention that Dr. Richardson's name was put back on the floor, which that's not what we spoke about. And it was done publicly. And we were told, I don't remember who exactly said, you guys were going to discuss it and come up with somebody worthy of being put on the floor in the gym.
And we
But-
did discuss honoring all members that were a part of 9/11. And to answer that question, Dr. Richardson's name was put on the floor at 15 years ago, 20. I don't
Yes,
even
but he
know.
was taking off, and the time to do something different and rededicate it was when the floor was ripped up and a new one was put down. We didn't have to put his name back
The
on.
committee met and discussed it.
Did
And
all
we're
the
actually
board
doing a
members
mural,
agree?
which is beautiful, a mural for all 9/11.
But why did Mr.
victims.
Richardson's name, him specifically, have to go back on? I mean, this was a man who was being investigated by the FBI. So I think that
The
we
gym
could have
was already
had,
dedicated, ma'am.
excuse me?
The gym was dedicated. Oh, thank you, Mrs.
Oh,
Ramos.
thank you, Mr. Cathcart. This is the only time I've heard you speak, but thank you that you've been paying attention to my time.
I'll be glad to
Thank
speak
you. We don't
anytime
wanna
you
take
want me
time
to.
from
You
other
can
people in the
call me,
public.
talk to me anytime you want.
No,
I'll just simply
I
tell
don't-
you
I
the
don't-
truth.
I don't get anything out of talking to you.
Well, and I get less out of talking to you.
Please,
you.
please, we'd
Thank
like to
you.
have
You're
the next member of the
You're
pu-
so
public.
professional. You're so
Mrs.
professional.
Gottlieb?
And just one last comment, because I think it's an important one. We should definitely speak to our staff and teachers about certain comments that they're making. Back shaming is unacceptable. I won't name any names, but it was a comment that was made. A student took off their mask.
I'm sorry. Please make it brief. You've
It's-
run out of time
Yeah,
a
10
minute and a
seconds.
half ago.
It's almost
And
done.
we have other
I
people
will.
that have to speak online as
Oh,
well.
I
ma'am.
will.
We're just trying to be respectful to all the people in
I
the
will.
public.
So some kid took off his mask, and the teacher said to the kid, put on your mask because not every kid here is vaccinated as they should be. That is unacceptable, and the comment was unacceptable.
You
and the
could write
teachers-
the superintendent and the administration, the principal, the teacher.
No, I just think it's
follow
a
the chain of
conversation
command.
that I think it should be had with the staff so they know
Thank
better.
you for your comments. Mrs. Gottlieb, please.
Can I just, before you start, I don't
Mrs.
want to take
Gottlieb,
up any
just
of
a
your,
moment.
I don't want to take up any of your time. I just want to make a comment. Because it's important and it represents this community. When Buildings and Grounds met, when we had a subcommittee meeting about how we might best represent 9/11, veterans of foreign war, our fallen heroes, I believe the committee, we didn't come to a consensus, but the idea was out there that Mr. Galasso would work with students on what a large mural. In fact, the place we were looking at was out here for our fallen heroes and 9/11 and veterans of foreign wars as a large memorial to give respect to all of those heroes that Ridgefield Park has lost to those incidents. And so I know he's currently working on such a mural with students in preparation for that. May not go in the gym because there's not a lot of wall there, but you can see there's a big open space here that would well represent the proud heritage of those people. I wanted to put that out there as that was one of the things considered.
Thank you, Dr. Haines.
Hi,
Good
Leslie
evening.
Gottlieb. I have a kind of an off-topic question, but every month we put up a list of items that we send off to Gov Deals for auction. And this month it was like pots from the cooking program that were not being used. And I'm just wondering, is this really a significant source of revenue for us? Are we obligated to send this stuff to auction? Couldn't we just donate them? Because it seems like we send off a lot of things to Gov Deals that just don't really carry much value.
We can do either. We can donate them or we can send them to Gov Deals. And as practices, they've been sending them to Gov Deals, but it is something we can talk about because we can
You know,
certainly donate
just look
them.
in the future. If they're only gonna get $4 or $5 an item, it may be better to donate them. Maybe they could donate the pots and pans to a shelter, or the books could be set up in a free library for kids. Just something to think about.
Is that the final outcome? If they don't get sold on Gov Deals, I guess they are donated. and
They are
not thrown out,
donated if
so.
they don't get sold on Gov. Yeah.
I've seen some things as well, but I think the first initiative, it's been recommended to try. And if not, things do get donated.
Okay, just throwing it out there, that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Gottlieb. Nancy Myler? If you could just state your address as well, I'll write it on the list. Thank you.
Nancy Myler, 355 Teaneck Road, Ridgefield Park.
Good evening.
Just a couple of things based on things people have said and just kind of my thoughts on these off-agenda items. Halloween definitely was a little tough this year. I will acknowledge that. I know people have mentioned it up here. There were things that were posted online. Kids did some stuff that was not great. However, I personally feel there's nothing the board in particular can do about that. As long as I've been here, which is just over 18 years, every so often there are issues. There's always unfortunately going to be a handful of kids who ruin it for everybody. Again, I don't think that's something the board can do much about. The other thing, in terms of Mr. Gibbons being seen in a positive light, I'm happy to just have somebody acknowledge that. In my personal experience, a lot of what I've seen from him has been in a positive light. As with literally every board member, most of you whom I know personally, I think every single one of you has the best intentions for our children and our town. And I also give that same acknowledgement to Mrs. McNeil and Mrs. Orth, who have just been elected. In my experience, that's what I have seen. Third of all, as has been mentioned already, the gym floor, you can't just change what's gonna happen mid-construction. Definitely a little tough, definitely will affect cost, definitely will affect timing. Regardless of whether Dr. Richardson should or should not be acknowledged, it's been there for 10 years. The floor was being replaced. That's the way it is. It's not that anything had to be voted on, and that's something I understand. Lastly, I am going to emphatically ask everyone in this community, masks and vaccines are a hot topic. We get it. Everybody has their opinions. Everybody has their feelings. Everybody has the right to both. What I will emphatically, I say the word again, ask people is please do not compare mask mandates and vaccine mandates to the Holocaust. It is not comparable at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Myler. And now we're going to promote our speakers online. Nancy, were there no online questions? Oh, thank you. Good evening.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am. Good
Okay.
evening.
Good evening. Never done this on Zoom.
We hear you fine.
138 Fifth Street. So I have a general question. Have we already done away with the posting of the Board of Ed Q&As on the website? And I ask this because I submitted a few and they were never posted or answered.
So, Mrs. Schmidt, I'll take that.
Yep.
That website did go down unexpectedly for a brief period of time. We brought it back up, and I'll take ownership of that. I have not looked at that. I apologize. I feel like you could call me up, Mrs. Schmidt, and please do. And I'll either be happy to answer your questions on phone or just remind me that they're out there and I need to answer them.
Okay, no problem. I was just curious because it didn't seem to be posted. I was wondering if we were not doing that anymore. So a few things I want to bring up. I've heard stories about kids acting out, as we've all just already discussed, getting into fights, bullying, etc. Many parents on social media have made mention to COVID and the pandemic and all the stress that's added to our adult lives, and the children must feel it too, but they're less capable of dealing with their feelings in a healthy way. And I just wonder, myself, I wonder what specifically it is about COVID at this point in time that is stressing or upsetting these kids. I don't have the answer, but I have my guesses, and I just sure hope that more people wonder the same. And those that can speak to those kids struggling get the answers so that they can help them. But perhaps wearing a mask all day, every single day at school, while going through all the normal kid and teenage struggles kids go through, is not helping them. I know some believe it's not hurting them either, but it's definitely not helping them. That's my opinion anyway. And I believe it's time to lose the masks so our kids can feel normal again, period. And it should not be contingent on a percentage of children vaccinated. Those that should be vaccinated have been given that opportunity, and that should be the end of it. On a separate note, I would like clarification about the 15-minute parent rule, as I'll call it, per the Executive Order 253. We received an email a few weeks back regarding anyone who enters the building must be vaccinated if they're going to be in contact with the children for more than 15 minutes. I know myself and several other parents had questions about that more specifically. And it's my understanding that in addition, or as an alternative to the vaccine, you can produce a negative COVID test. That wasn't made clear in the email, so I would like clarification publicly so that those parents that have that concern will understand that they could also submit a negative COVID test in lieu of the vaccine card or proof of vaccination. And also, have we thought about this new 15-minute rule and how it comes into play with any other activities, holiday concerts and events, or are we not going to be having those this year? Is that something that we haven't thought about because it's not yet going to be something taking place in the future? That's important. I know there's a lot of parents concerned about if they're unvaccinated, will they be able to attend their child's indoor holiday concert if that were to take place? And then my question I had also asked a question about the survey results regarding the on-site vaccination clinic, and I've not been answered. Now I understand it wasn't, the website was down, but the results have not been revealed. I know that Leonia is doing the vaccine site, but I'd like to know in general what the feedback was in Ridgefield Park about an on-site vaccination clinic and what percentage of parents responded to the survey expressing interest. I also feel that today's email about Leonia's vaccination, on-site vaccination clinic could have been slightly more clear that while a vaccination site has become available, it was not required that parents schedule their kids. A lot of us know that, and a lot of us could presume that, but I think if the email had just, simply stated that you may complete this form if you're interested, as opposed to complete this form and schedule your child's vaccination, people would be a little clearer about what that meant. And lastly, why is vaccination a wonderful thing to do? Kind of a rhetorical question, but I heard this earlier from Nurse Aguilar, and I don't mean any disrespect to her, but I'm certainly curious for one of you to elaborate and state specific reasons why vaccinating children between the ages of 5 to 11 is a wonderful thing to do. I think if you're going to call it wonderful, you should just go a step further and state the specific reasons why you think that. And that's where I'll stop. But if you're going to make the statement and say it's a wonderful thing to do, give me the specific reasons why. This is public, everybody's listening. I could say it's wonderful to jump off a bridge. So I think we should all be accountable and really be more specific than using words like wonderful. And that's all tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt.
I'll go, Mrs. Schmidt, I'll go ahead and answer what I can.
Thank you.
So we did put a survey out to our community to ask how many of our residents were interested in a vaccination site and our high school offering to be a vaccination site. The survey results were very minimal. Not many people responded to that. So when the opportunity arose, when Leonia opened up a vaccination site in collaboration with Walmart, I felt that was the right thing to say. That's right across the bridge. It's a very short distance. They're offering this opportunity. Apologies if it didn't come across as you say that it's not required. It's available. Leonia is making this available. As far as the 15-minute rule, this goes back to Mrs. Aguilar working with HARP and Hackensack Hospital, and it's one of the rules. The differentiated factor, and it's hard to communicate this, is the adult to student contact. So when an adult walks into the school, and can I say, first of all, most school districts don't even allow adult visitors at school right now. It's just easier to, with all the restrictions and regulations, to say it's easier not to have adults in school. I'm pretty proud that we are inviting adults in, and you'll see on the revised agenda, the one tonight, we have a list of adult volunteers for all 3 elementary schools that we're approving as a resolution. They come into our schools for 15 minutes, and the determination is if they're working within 3 to 6 feet of students, then we do require, if they are in contact with students for more than 15 minutes, that they show proof of vaccination. If for a concert, which is different, so if a parent goes to a concert, like a holiday concert, and is the audience with other parents away from students, then we're not going to ask about them being vaccinated. We're assuming the students are mostly on the stage or performing. So the determination is how far away are those adults from students, assuming that the adults, if they are unvaccinated, can still get COVID from the students. That is the determinant. That's something that I talked to Mrs. Aguilar a lot about, because these things are fluent and change constantly, and they're things I think about as we enter the holiday season. And if there's a change in that status or direction, I will communicate that.
Thank you, Dr. Haines. I'm going to move on to the next speaker online.
Hello, this is Marcia Martinez. I live on 15 East Winnet Ave.
Good evening.
I just have maybe 2 statements and a question. I just wanted to make a statement, the fact that I love that the high school and the middle school have all these beautiful clubs. And I've been wanting for a while for the elementary schools to also have some clubs available. I already reached out to one of the principals, and they mentioned that there's a situation why they can't have all clubs yet. But I would really love to see clubs for the elementary students. For example, my daughter is an amazing artist, but she can't do anything about it because there's nothing for her to do except ask for the teacher for extra work hours or go to another school and pay extra for that. So that's one thing. My son, who's in another school, and he doesn't have any clubs either that he can join, that he can communicate with other kids, because he does struggle with maintaining friends because he's, I want to say not different, but he's a little extra and emotional. So it's hard for him to keep a friend around. So that's one thing. The question of when are they gonna start bringing some clubs into the elementary schools? Even my youngest, who's in kindergarten, I would love to see him in a little mini horror group or something because he loves horror movies. So I would love to see more stuff for the elementary students as well. Just going back to what Jenny said previously, their schools, all schools have to have the same levels when it comes to class parents or parents want to do something for the school. One school has one rules. I'm allowed to be a class parent, but I can't be in the school for 15 minutes or more because I'm not vaccinated. Then I have another school who I'm not allowed to be a class mama at all because I'm not vaccinated. So I feel like all the schools should be on the same line when it comes to vaccinations or not. And the last thing I want to say, I also enjoy seeing all these awareness for breast cancer, for cancer, for what is the common one? Those are the common ones I always see. Alzheimer's, but there are a lot of other awareness that we should be brought up into our attention. Like my daughter has sickle cell anemia. Nobody has a clue when it comes to a sickle cell anemia. The only person I ever spoke to who actually had an idea of it was Nurse Erin, and that is it. Any other nurses that my daughter had, I had to educate them. So I would love to see more awareness and other awarenesses for other diseases out there, epilepsy, as well as CF. CF is another thing. So we should bring more awareness to other stuff except the same common ones every year. It would be nice and educational for everybody to know everybody's situation. And my daughter especially, because everybody has a common thing of saying, she looks normal. She doesn't look sick while she suffers every single month, going to the hospital every single month. So I would love to see the schools bring more awareness to other diseases other than the same ones constantly. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your comments.
So a couple of answers to a couple of your questions. In the resolutions tonight, faculty and program number 71, the resolution to accept or look at CRISA and ESSER, accepting those funds, which having been approved tonight will result in postings tomorrow. And some of those postings could be picked up by teachers exactly as you're saying for ELA, English language arts or visual and performance arts for elementary teachers to start running clubs, because that's exactly what that money was put there for by the state and the federal government, for our teachers to offer those kinds of in-person learning where we can rebuild our learning communities. So we are in full agreement with you there. I will say the difference here, and it's concerning to me, all of those amazing clubs at the high school that are offered by our consummate professionals, are phenomenally good high school teachers who are passionate about supporting our kids as they choose to self-select and create these clubs. They are all volunteer positions. And in every other district that I've been, clubs are at least some kind of stipend. And so when we go to the elementary school and we encourage these clubs, we probably will be using CRISA funds, and there will be a disparity there as we move forward. I wanted to acknowledge that as we move forward. As far as the rules that govern adults coming into our schools and going to concerts or serving as volunteers, they are the same in all of our schools across the district. That is the same HARP rules and recommendations that we follow, that Nurse Erin explains every month at our meetings. That covers all schools at our district.
Thank you. Nancy, how many more do we have? It's 4? 3. Okay, thank you. If we could promote the next person in the public, it looks like we're going to go over a little bit. So I'm going to allow 10 more minutes to our time because we've answered some questions and some speakers have gone a little bit over. Thank you. Good evening, Mrs. Raftery.
Good evening, Ingrid Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue. I have a question. Today, my granddaughter went to the nurse and then was sent home. My husband received the phone call from my granddaughter. When he went to pick her up from school, he wanted to know, why he was picking her up exactly. He waited for like a good 10 minutes and nobody explained, the nurse didn't come and nobody explained to him why she was sent home. So he took her to the pediatrician. Turned out she has a sore throat, but was cleared. Now, we were a little confused by that. She did get COVID tested. She's negative. I can say that publicly. So she's allowed to return to school tomorrow. But we were just puzzled that the nurse would not, speak to my husband about, what was going on.
Can I recommend that you reach out to the nurse and or the building principal or teacher, and they'll get back to you. Certainly, that's a concern that is understandable.
So my other question is, and I would like to have a very honest answer about that. Not my granddaughter. As a matter of fact, I went to the Zoom meeting with the teachers last night. All I heard was wonderful things. But I was told by other parents that apparently there's a lot of violence going on in your school, in the bathrooms, fights, hallways, areas where students maybe not always be seen, and also verbally attacking some teachers, threatening them. So here is my question. What is your policy? How is that being handled so it doesn't spill over? Now, I know there's COVID. I know that children and teenagers wear masks, but as a parent, I feel very strongly that parents also have to take responsibility. It starts at home. I don't consider the school to be the one who raises our children, but I would like to know, where's the interaction when these incidents happen? How is it handled? Is it just, there's a first time, there's a second time, there's another time? How is it being handled? What are the consequences for students and parents?
So each incident is different. So each incident is handled differently, and I'm not going to comment on exact situations, and I can't comment publicly about issues with minors, but I will say again, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we are aware of the issues. We are on top of them. We have a great team of administrators who are solutions-based, and we have regular meetings about how we handle student infractions and how we involve our parents. And we have implemented that at least 3 times in the past 2 weeks.
Another question I have, if you don't mind, would it not be a great idea? You have clubs, they're wonderful, all of them, but where students who have conflicts, or not even conflicts, but maybe once a week for 20-30 minutes meet and say, how could we as students, especially middle school and high schoolers, solve these issues with a mediator, with what is really going on? Why, why, and I'm not gonna say names, I'm not gonna go into the incidents, but maybe that would be a great idea to implant, where students meet once a week or at least once a month and say, okay, what are the issues? What's happening? And, I know COVID has something to do with it, but we can't blame it just on COVID. Because I've been to the supermarket, I walk in the street, I'm on the bus, I go places where I see students. They don't recognize me because I wear a mask, or they don't know me because I work in the city. But, there's been incidents where I have shaken my head. I also have shaken my head where there were parents present and did not address a situation. And I was just like, how strange. So therefore, I think students maybe need to meet and really discuss what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
I cannot speak any more clearly than Mrs. Cavens and Mrs. Hasselberger, and Mrs. Cavens speaking specifically about the numerous clubs, the numerous activities, the social opportunities those students get, the kind of culture she's creating at the high school. I mean, she went on and on better than I could ever do. As far as peer mediation, there's a peer mediation program. I mean, they are on top of this and they have solutions and they are helping kids do peer mediation. And they have been for a long time. So those programs are already in place.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, Jessica Johnson, 80 Gordon Street, Ridgefield Park. I actually wanted to address the preschool situation. I saw in your agenda that you had I think it's called IDEA, which is acronym, something inclusion for developmental education or
And
something.
you said 80 Gordon Street? I'm sorry, just for the record.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
80 Gordon Street.
Thank you.
And this is wonderful to have the inclusion preschool for special needs kids, not in this district, but my nephew is, in special needs preschool with early intervention in Carlstadt, actually. So I understand what this is and it's a wonderful thing. But there has been, I would call it a rumor, except that the emails are legitimate emails attached to it. Rumors on Facebook and social media about universal preschool in this town, which has been going around as a survey on a Google Doc with a couple of school administrators' emails attached to it, asking questions from the parents in the community whether we are interested in a universal preschool program. Of the 10 preschool aged parents on my street alone, I was the only parent to even know that this document existed. And the only reason I knew about it was through local community groups where it's being passed person to person. My question is if you are contemplating entering into a universal preschool program and you are polling the public as to whether this is wanted, needed, or how it should be implemented, shouldn't you actually be doing this in some sort of legitimate public fashion and not through a Google Doc passed around on Facebook?
So we are trying to get information. As you know, goal number 1 is early childhood education from birth to age 5. That committee is going strong, and some of those administrators got together to figure out how we could start polling our community. In my mind, there are 3 steps we need. We need a feasibility study to look at where universal pre-K could be offered. We need to work with the town about other capacities. And right now they're in data collection, trying to get information about the parents and the families we have in the community. To get more information on that committee is Mrs. Diane Thiemann. And I'd ask her to come to the mic and speak a little bit about how they formed this survey and it's going out to the community. Thank you, Mrs. Thiemann.
Good evening, everyone. So Dr. Haines.
Just one moment. Mrs. Johnson, do you have any more comments? You're still.
Yes, I do.
Could we please save Mrs. Thiemann's comment? Thiemann's comments until, thank you.
Thank you.
Proceed, Ms. Johnson. Thank you.
Okay, so my second question also relating to said preschool activity. Trust me, as mom of 2 young children, I'm totally behind this being an idea on a concept level. But my biggest questions are, where are we putting these kids? Obviously, Thomas Jefferson was a significant failure on all accounts. Where are we housing these kids? Like point blank, where do you plan on putting a preschool?
Yeah, so there are so many communities out there that partner with communities. Morristown comes to mind, Bogota comes to mind. It's not in school facilities. You partner with outside agencies. And part of this committee will be going to visit these sites to get a sense of how they are working and partnering with outside agencies. And the state provides you money, so you train the teachers, you provide the professional development, they use the same curriculum, and the state is very clear and rigorous on what is taught and when it is taught in these preschool programs. Mrs. Thiemann, if you want to talk a little more.
Ms. Johnson, did you need more of your time originally?
I
Do you want to wait?
I do still have other additional things, yes.
We could hold our comments until Ms. Johnson's time is up. It would be appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Thiemann. Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
And then the last thing is, in light of the fact that this board has not had not this particular board, the board in general, historically speaking, has not exactly been the most financially responsible board. And then in light of all of the financial obligations that the board is currently undertaking, how are we paying for this? Because I get it that there are grants for things like IDEA, for things like inclusion preschool, but for universal preschool, where are we getting this money? You can't squeeze blood out of a stone. I would just like to know, where are we putting them? Where are we spending this money from? And why is this going around as a, just a kind of, if you happenstance into it, Google Doc that you can submit, and not in any sort of uniform method of polling the public?
Thank you, ma'am.
That's it.
And any other portions of the question? We'll start the answer with Ms.
No, feel free to
Siemens.
input.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for your question. I'm happy to help give you some of the answers that you're looking for. So Dr. Haines had asked each of the district administrators to take on different areas of our district goals that we have adopted this year. One of them being the goal of universal preschool. Universal preschool is something that is near and dear to my heart because I feel that this is something that our district and certainly the communities of Ridgefield Park and Little Ferry could definitely benefit from. So I jumped at the chance to be part of that survey. So that being said, all the administrators are putting out these surveys, different ones. One is in reference to what we have here ready at the high school established CTE programs, the scholarship programs that we have, and another survey was about wellness, and then there was the one about the preschool. So I instantly reached out to the Office of Emergency Management, asked them if they would help us getting the information out. So not everybody in the town is registered, as I'm sure all of you are aware, for the reverse 911 calling. So what we did was we tried to do as many social media blasts as we could. So the first one we did was from all district families, grades pre-K through 12. So our current pre-K program right through 12th grade. So every single family in the entire district received the email with the survey. And on the survey, it said, please share, if at all possible, with friends, family, and neighbors that live within the community of Ridgefield Park. So that was our first blast. Then our second blast was through the Office of Emergency Management. They graciously offered to put it out through their communication means. On top of that, we asked each district principal to put it out on the social media for their schools as well. And that was all sent out to the community on Friday. So we were confident that between the social media presence, the emails, and the Office of Emergency Management, the majority of the town would receive, in fact, this survey. On top of that, what we did was we've been sharing it through other organizations as well to make sure it gets out there. Understand that this survey is just that. It's a survey. It's a feasibility study to see, is there a need for universal preschool in our district? There are many different avenues that can be, of course, explored as to where the preschool programs would be. We had started looking at that a few years ago, but now that this has become one of our adopted district goals, this is the time to really get serious about looking at universal preschool for our specific community and making sure that this can come to fruition. We want to see this happen. This district is passionate about seeing this happen. We really think it will benefit all of our students and definitely the community as a whole. So some of the questions, in case there is someone in the room that did not receive it, were typical questions of a short, brief survey. Do you have children in your home under the age of 5? If you do, what age range? And then an open-ended question at the end that states, what would you like to know about the possibility of universal preschool, or what would you like to share with us? If anybody in this room or online did not receive it, on the survey, it has district administrators' emails. Mine is dthiemann@rpschools.net. I would be very happy to share with anybody that would like the survey and would like to see it. In the meantime, the survey closes tomorrow and the information will be shared. And I can tell you that at this point is extremely positive.
I'll try to be brief about another important point that you brought up, Mrs. Johnson, and that was payment. we as a community need to understand we have an opportunity gap where we have some students who do get universal pre-K, and in many other communities, all students get it. And I keep coming back to Morristown because it's my neck of the woods and they're very similar socioeconomic, although the district is much larger. And in the past 2 years, they've had people go to the state is putting out a lot of money right now for universal pre-K grants. So as we follow this through, this can't and won't come out of our district budget. It would come out of the grants that the state is offering, like Bogota took part of, like Morristown, like Princeton. And as our committee goes out and looks at those other sites to ask questions about how it was funded and how the state provided these resources to work that way. But we're mindful that we have an opportunity gap and others are receiving funds where we are not. We need to advocate for ourselves.
Do we have another comment, Nancy, online? Okay, I'm sorry. We have one more comment online. You could email the appropriate person, ma'am.
Come see.
Hi, can you hear me?
Good evening. And this will be
Good
the
evening.
last
My name
comment
is
of the night.
Christina.
Good evening, ma'am. We can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Christina Salcido, 159 Union Place. I want to just make a very brief comment. Everybody, a lot of people have spoken about the fights, the physical fights that have happened recently. And I'm always thinking about prevention rather than, solutions are always good, but prevention for me is always the best way to address any problem. And I don't see as many speakers be invited to our schools as to other school districts. And I think this is a great opportunity to address something like to speak to all the middle school and high school children about anti-violence and anti-bullying and stuff like that, that everybody, not just the children that are having issues, that every single kid can benefit from. And I was wondering who could I contact, because I have reached out to other school districts and the people that have invited speakers for such things. And I do have contacts, and I was wondering who do I need to contact to give this information to see if this is a possibility.
And I directly to the school principals. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have any other comments at this time?
No, that's it. That's all. Thank you very much.
Yes, that will conclude the public comment section. And Dr. Martinez has a comment as well.
I just want to make a brief comment. A lot of the parents are worried about the violence in the schools and misbehavior. And I just wanted to point out that we've had 2 years, almost 2 years, where we have not had a normal day. And that if you ask your kids, who their homeroom teacher was 2 years ago, they're going to have trouble recalling them or who their best friends were. And so our kids have been kind of locked up in the house and a little bit feral for going on 2 years. And it's going to take a little time for teachers to work that out, for teachers and parents to work that out, and to get our kids to be able to sit in classes again. Part of the purpose of early childhood intervention is for kids to learn how to sit and how to behave and how to learn rules and how to be in a certain place all day, which is not natural. And our kids are kind of brand new to school. And they're going back to a school that is very, very different than it was when they left. So I think that's one comment that I wanted to make, that it's going to take a while we have to have a little tolerance, and we're going to have to use a soft hand rather than coming down with the hammer when our kids misbehave. The other thing I wanted to comment is that our teachers are also coming back to a completely different school system. And they are as stressed out as the rest of us. And along those same lines, we've spent as a country, not to get too political, we spent the past 2 or 3 years beating each other up and being polarizing and not being able to have discussions and not handling emotions well, and road rage and all the craziness on TV. And our kids are watching that. And so when you're ranting on the phone or when we're ranting online or certain things like that, like our kids are watching that, and it's going to trickle down. So I don't think the kids are the problem. I think we need to start at the top and kind of be a little patient and a little soft as we get them back into school. That's all the comment I want to make.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez. And, I just wanted to make a comment on all the athletes, congratulating them, the cross-country team on their county and league qualifying times, the Ridgefield Park football team in the state semifinals. I've never seen the community come together the way they did the other night. We thank all the coaches that worked with them. And the saddest part of the season is saying goodbye to the seniors that, have played for the past 4 or 5 years. So we're going to miss them. Thank you, Coach Rapp, Coach Grath, Coach Snyder, Coach Capurso, Coach Kuzo, and Coach Encarnacion for doing a great job with our students. And thank you to all those seniors that worked hard this year. You have any unfinished business? New business? Okay, I make a motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.